Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, I am the CHALL and welcome to another match report. This is Doncaster Rovers 0, Northampton Town 2, and there's a very good reason why I didn't want to film this on the day of the match. I wanted to get a good night's sleep and just calm down, because what I saw on the pitch was atrocious. The scenes that I saw off the pitch were sad. I'm not even angry about it, I'm just sad because that's the situation and that's what the club's come to. So it's a very hard one for me, this one. It's a very hard review for me to film. I've had a good night's sleep, but still tossing and turning, wondering what the hell's going to happen to the club. And it's one of them at the end of the day. I could see it in Danny's face in the press conference after the match. He was asked some tough questions by Radio Sheffield, and you know, he was asked some tough questions, and I could see it in the press conference, in the Rovers video, in the actual club video after the match, in his press conference reaction after the match. I could see it in his face. He looks, I'm not saying he is, but he looks a defeated man. He really looks a defeated man. But we're going to get into this anyway. Please like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell to never miss a YouTube video, and let's get into this match report from Doncaster Rovers 0, Northampton Town 2. Unbeaten in 6 with 4 wins in that amount of games, Northampton Town were in great form under manager John Brady. But Doncaster Rovers, however, weren't, collecting just 5 points in the last 21 available heading into this match. Rovers' season is practically over as attention turns to what is a crucial summer transfer window if they have hopes of competing in League 2 next season. Northampton Town's season is far from over, however, as the automatic promotion spot is theirs to lose as it stands. So let's start with the lineup, starting with Northampton Town. Tyler McGlaw, Ben Fox, Danny Hilton, Ali Koike, Sean McWilliams, Josh Harrop, Josh Eppiah, Aiken Odemayo, Josh Tomlinson and Max Dyche miss out with injury. Tom King is on international duty with Wales, and Kieran Bowie returns early from Scotland under-21s duty. 2 changes from the side that beat Crewe Alexandra, as Will Hondermark and Sam Shering, who also misses out through injury, departs for AJ McGowan and Mitch Pinnock. Stuart Moore returned to Blackpool as Jonathan Mitchell comes back in between the 6 for Rovers, as Todd Miller also starts, putting Carl Hurst on the bench. Also making his first appearance in the matchday squad, albeit on the substitutes bench, is ex-Bristol Rovers and Coventry City midfielder and new Rovers signing Zane Westbrook. Jake Oram also drops out as backup keeper for the return of Ben Bottomley. So let's review the game then. We're going to talk about the off-field scenes a little bit later. We're going to start with the game itself, because at the end of the day it's all about the football. And we were not at the races in that game. The first half was part of the bus, never looked like we were going to attack. Northampton looked like they had a plan. They sussed us out from game 1. They were rough, they were physical. The thing is about Northampton though, and it's no disrespect because they deserve the win, they didn't really have to get out of first gear to beat us as well. You know, they didn't really have to get out of first gear. They had to just go along with it, pump the long balls, and you know, they beat us to everything in the air. They beat us to every first ball, and you know, they were always there first. And it just was a poor performance. It was very abhorrent, and reiterates my point. And I've said this on the lower league look 606s in the past couple of weeks. Our season is over, and they even argued that point. I said, well, if you beat, it was around the time that before we faced Salford, before we lost against them, and they said, well, if you beat Salford, you're like, what, 3 points away from the playoffs? And I said, no, we're too inconsistent. Our season is over, and that's not me being negative. That's me being realistic. Our season is over, and we saw that today. The players look like they're on the beach. They might be trying, they might be telling us that they're trying, and the manager might be telling us that the players are trying, but we're not seeing evidence of that. I could pick out 2 players that actually did something in that match. Charlie Seaman and Liam Ravenhill. Charlie Seaman, who before this run of games has barely featured for Rovers this season, and Liam Ravenhill, who's only just come into the starting lineup after a loan spell at non-league Spennymoor. How the hell is Liam Ravenhill and Charlie Seaman, no disrespect to them, performing better than some of our experienced pros that are making mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake? Jonathan Mitchell, I stuck up for that guy long enough, and I spoke to him after the game. He knows he should be doing better. I'll be brutally as honest as possible. That performance from Jonathan Mitchell on the game yesterday was inexcusable. Inexcusable. First, and don't anyone tell me the second goal weren't his fault. The second goal was his fault. The first goal was his fault. How can you let the ball go through your legs like that? As a goalkeeper, you're taught to close your damn legs as you're going down. What happened there? That shot should not be going in. That should have been a low-driven shot, easily saved. But through the legs, 1-0, 2 minutes into the match, and already the mood in the stand changes. Already. The second goal. Why the hell are you distributing it to Sam Hoskins, who is known for poaching and known for being there at the right moment to pounce on chances? Why are you passing there? Johnny, if you're watching this video, if you find this video, come and speak to me before the match against Crewe Alexandra, because I want to know what your thinking process was for the first goal and definitely for the second goal, because why the hell are you passing to Sam Hoskins, who's there, and he just pounces? You know, pass to the side or boot it long. Don't pass straight to where Hoskins can pounce, because he's got that in him. And I think he scored, I think he's the first player to score 20 goals in a Northampton Town season, something like that. I mean, I could be wrong with that stat, but I swear Hoskins has broken Northampton Town record. Any Northampton fans, comment down below and remind me. But well done, Sam Hoskins. You know, absolute legend for Northampton. Well done. Just the whole performance was awful, and the substitutions that Schofield's making, I've got to question it, because, you know, yes, they're enforced changes, but in my personal opinion, I would have liked to have seen Bobby Faulkner in that back three. I said to Bobby afterwards, I would like to have given you a chance. Why? I can barely think about it. And again, Zane Westbrook, he gets 15 minutes, but he's not got enough time to show what he can do. I know we need to ease him into it, and I agree we need to ease him into it. And I think with how good Ravenhill was yesterday, I think since he was one of the better players on the pitch, again, I'd probably start Ravenhill on Saturday. But again, we can't just rely on the rest of the season on Liam Ravenhill. Westbrook needs to be eased into it and given a chance at some point. But it's going to take time with Westbrook. I think it's definitely going to take time with him. We couldn't even look like we could create a chance, let alone put one in the back of the net. 10 shots, 2 on target, it's just not good enough. What's that now? 10 shots on target in 6 games, something like that, or 8. I think the record's 8. I think it's like 8 shots on target in 6 games. It's just not good enough. It really is not good enough. And overall, just a poor performance. Like I said, Seaman and Ravenhill were the bright sparks, but again, not enough. Now then, let's talk about what happened off the pitch, because there were some scuffles on the pitch, but not like what I saw in the stands today. So I'm not going to go into the details just for personal reasons. I'm not going to go into the details about what happened, because I think that's for other people to come out and say if need be. But what I saw was sad. It was sad. I could see 3-4 separate instances of scraps. A couple of them I've no idea why they started. A couple of them I know how it started, but I'm not going to disclose them here on the channel, because that's, you know, their own personal business. Out of respect for them. One of the, I think a couple of scraps I didn't know at first what happened, and then someone told me. 3 massive board out flags. It wasn't a great photo, but I'll put a picture on the screen for you. This was before the match, but it was brought out a couple of times during the match as well. And in fact, for the last minute of added time, I was actually under one of the flags. I sort of moved to the front because I thought one of my mates was involved in one of the scraps, and I basically So they kept that area clear. So I just found the first seat available. Turns out they were getting a massive flag, and it was, you know, perched right over me. So I was in the middle, right underneath the flag. You know, at the end of the day, the board need to listen to what the fans are saying. At the end of the day, it's you know, if the fans are, you know, I heard all the chants, I heard what the chants were, and I heard what the stand was saying. It was the majority of the South stand. It was pretty much the entirety of the South stand that was singing it. And if the entirety of one stand is singing it, like if it was just 10, 15 people, it won't make a difference. When you've got nearly an entire stand singing it, it gets to a point where you need to start listening. So it's one of those where the scenes that I saw in the game were just, it was ugly. It was ugly, toxic scenes. Like the thumbnail says. Toxic performance, toxic atmosphere, toxic club. It really is a toxic chalice at the minute at the club. And things need to change. This summer needs to be a turning point for the club. Because if we can't compete with the teams around us in League 2 next season, we will struggle next season. I'm not going to jump to conclusions and say we'll be in a relegation scrap, but I wouldn't rule it out if we don't compete and don't back this manager in the summer. And, you know, I hear people saying Schofield out. I'm not remotely interested in Schofield out at this point, because I think the problem lies deeper. It's not on Schofield at all. Yes, he doesn't help himself sometimes with comments or certain moments in the game or certain substitutions or certain tactical decisions, but at the end of the day, we can't keep chopping and changing managers. We have to stick with this manager. We have to stick with this process. So I'm not going to sing Schofield out. I'm not going to sing Schofield out this season at all, because I feel like this season's a write-off. I think next season, if he's been backed and we still don't get the results and we're in a very bad position come October, November, I'm not going to say September because that's too soon, but October, November, for example, if we're in a very, very bad position in the table in League 2 next season at that point and he's been backed, there's nowhere to turn. But if he hasn't been backed or in a bad position, there isn't exactly much you can do, is it? You can only work with what, you know, me and a couple of lads said it to him, you know, outside afterwards. You can only work with what you got to work with, and I think his face said it all. I think he knows that. So overall, like I said, it's a very poisoned chalice right now, and it's a very toxic situation. And I think what I saw, whether it was the board out stuff, whether it was the scraps between fans and stewards or whatever happened in the stands and whatever happened in the stands yesterday, it was, I can only describe it as the club imploding. I think the scuffles on the pitch, there's a couple of scuffles on the pitch as well. I could tell by the reaction of the fans at full time when the players went round to try and clap the fans. There was no love there at all. It was toxic. It really was. It was one of those where it's just one of them situations where you just can't help it. You just can't help the situation, and it's one of those where you know, it's a very, very, very poisoned chalice at the minute, and it's going to take a lot to turn this around. Like I said, next season is going to be very, very interesting to see how much we back this manager. Because if we don't back this manager, then I could see it getting worse. I could see it getting worse before it gets better. But we'll see what happens in the summer. Like I said, I'm not even going to pay attention to this season. This season's just a write-off for me. We are where we were predicted to be by a lot of people. And, you know, I did have hope, I did have optimism that we'd try and get back up at the first time of asking. But at the end of the day, you know, we have to get used to League 2, because I think we're going to be here for a little while until things improve off the pitch as well as on the pitch. So overall, like I said, the scenes today were the scenes yesterday were toxic. They were ugly, and it kills me as a Rovers fan to see that. And at the end of the day, things will only improve when things change, when things improve off the pitch, when things are done better. And I'm pretty, you know, people, you know, even people that are bored out, I think that there are people, you know, it's not the entire club. There are people in that club that do care and do work their butts off You know, some of them voluntary, some of them do it for their own free time, some of it, you know, some are on paid contracts, some of them do it in their own free will, some of them do it for nothing, and they work their backside off for their job. There's people in that club that are great at what they do, and, you know, they work hard for the club and the community, but there are people in that club that just need to go, and I think the time might be here. And the people that need to go does not include the manager, in my opinion. Like I said, I think by November, if we're in a very bad position in the table, and he's been backed in the summer, then you've got nowhere to turn to. But at the end of the day, excluding the manager and the staff, I think there are people in that club that do not need to be here. I'm not going to say who, but I think you can gather an understanding. But that's just my personal opinion. I think, but again, it's that kind of catch-22, isn't it? It's like, who's going to come along and take us over? You know, who's going to come along and buy us? And I think the harsh reality, I mean, whether fans like it or not, I think the harsh reality is this is what we've got to expect until someone comes along and takes the club away from them. So it's one of those kind of poison catch-22s where I want the club sold, but until that happens, this is what we've got to deal with, this is what we've got to handle. I'm not saying we should expect it, I'm not saying we should just roll over and accept it, but this is unfortunately the best we're going to get until someone comes along. And that's the harsh reality, unfortunately. I think it's one of those where it's a very harsh pill to swallow, and I don't like to swallow it. I wish I could chuck it up in the sink, but you know, it's one of those. At the end of the day, we're swallowing a big pill of crap, and we're throwing up in our mouth, unfortunately, until a cure comes along. Unfortunately, that's the situation long term until someone comes along and buys us. But it's Crew on Saturday next week. We'll see what happens, and yeah, very, very poor performance on the pitch, very ugly scenes off the pitch, and yeah, I think we had a massive club implosion yesterday. Whether the board want to admit it or not, I think the club imploded off the pitch, and I think it definitely imploded on the pitch as well, in the last few games especially. But there we go. Season's done for me, and League 2 next season, and we'll see what happens in the summer. But for now, guys, thank you very, very much for watching this video. Make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you for the next match report, which is Crew Alexandra next weekend. But thank you very much, and the CHALL, ta-ra for now. Ta-ra for now.